So this is a great. You might not even want to hear this because it's like all these companies are going to bombard you. But I think there's an element where you sort of go,
as long as they're not chasing me, like, you know.
It's true. So I think there's an element. You go back to the why. Do you find when people pitch their tech or anything to the MATs, they miss explaining their own why? They sort of want to go direct to, let me show you a demo, and it's like, no, I don't really care about the demo as such, as much as I want to understand, number one, why are you in education? What's important to you? Why have you done this? Number two, I'm also really interested in where the benefit is. I want to hear I want to hear your language. I want to hear you talk about how passionate about your solution is and what it's going to do for children and what's it going to do for the MAT overall. Do you think that people want to jump to a demonstration first? Do you find that technical people will come to you rather than business people potentially?
Yeah, I spot on that. But if you look at it, and without being detrimental to, let's say, the DFE, I don't know what the DFE's vision for the future looks like in education. Now, if I knew that, I could then actually work within that to then say, well, actually, let's all work together for the common good. Let's leave the place better than we found it. And one of the things, when I first became a governor 28 years ago, one of the things I wanted to do at the time was leave a legacy. And we still have the phrase in my school called the L word, and it's the legacy that we will leave.
Yeah.
And we can only have that by actually having good, open conversations about where we're trying to be. And when I create a tender day for, let's say, a finance system for a group of 4 schools, and okay, they might be limited to say 45 minutes, but I wouldn't mind just 2 minutes of that, saying where the companies come from, where they're trying to go, what is the why are you really doing it, rather than saying, right, if we just bring it up, if you want the ledger code, you can put this one here, you can cross-reference it with your bank rec, etc. And by that point, it's only the business managers who are listening.
Yeah.
The trustees who are the decision makers, we've switched off.
Yeah.
I'm now thinking about Man City's next home game or next away game, thinking how we're going to win this quadruple. That's what I'm thinking about. But if they talk to me about why they're doing it and what they're trying to achieve in education and becoming strategic partners, they've got my attention. Absolutely got my attention. So I'm with you on that. For me, it's, if they can tell me why they're doing it and what the benefit is and how they're doing it, well, we're bringing out innovative things. We're listening to schools and trusts. We want to hear what's working for you. We want to hear what you want next year and the year after that. And then, oh, by the way, what I've got here, what I'm presenting to you is this. And now that's the boring part. It's great for a few people, but it's not great for the majority of the decision makers who are going to make the decision and then go about our lives because we're transient. So I do. Apologies to people who are listening, if that comes across. But for me, I totally agree with you that if they jump into things about the product, maybe because we're on a time limit, or maybe just because it's safe, because they've got a great script of it and they love the product. But I want to know why that product is going to work for us.
No, I was suggesting regarding businesses coming to you where they just basically throw the why at you now. You're just going to be inundated with lots of whys.
I would love that. To be fair, I would much rather, because I will leave people who are far more intelligent than me in multi-academy trust to choose the product, to choose the systems, etc. I just want to know why, so we can create something bigger than some of the parts. So for me, bombard me with those whys. I'm fine with that.
I knew you were going to bring up Man City at some point, but I'm going to go over that. I'm going to dismiss that now. Oh man! So one of the other things that comes up quite a bit is, so MATs and schools, they obviously the amount of money they have to spend on tech, it definitely reduces. It's not they don't there's not an infinite pot basically. And so one of the suggestions was if edtech companies thought on a person perspective. So, this solution would save you, say, £30,000, which is sort of an average sort of cost of a person within a school or a sort of, overall. do you think that's something that people should be considering, or do you think EdTech you shouldn't worry about that too much?
I personally think that is a good way of looking at things. Okay. I had my trust board personnel and finance committee meeting yesterday, and I am the chair of that. And there were 19 agenda items, and one of the longest ones was how much money we've lost in COVID because we're not opening our breakfast club, our wraparound care. Our nursery has not had the same number of people, and we've not leased the building out to other areas. So how much have we lost? And therefore, what options have we got? So if this happened and we didn't do that, we would save this, which would then negate that. So, and a lot of work goes in on finance committees or personnel and finance committees. And if I had an EdTech company coming to me to say, we can save you £25,000 this year on this, and here is the proof, I would sit up and take notice immediately, especially with what's happened over the last 12 months and what will still happen over the next couple of years, playing catch up and not having that money coming in. And people with budgets that are maybe not as healthy as others, if we could then say to them, look, here's the product, but I'll tell you why we're doing it first. We'll then tell you what it will do to how it will benefit your school, how it will put money back into teaching and learning. And that's the phrase for me. Because I always say, if we can put money back into teaching and learning, that's where it should be diverted to. It should be aimed for that. Now, if an EdTech company came along to me and said, Jeff, I can save your single academy trust £25,000 to go back into teaching and learning, what would you do with that £25,000 to improve children's lives? They've got me hooked. Because I would have to be pretty cold to turn around and say, I will do nothing with that £25,000 to improve children's lives. And they've not even told me what the product is yet.
Yeah.
So it's the hook, Nick. It's the hook that will get the decision makers. So if they talk to me on those lines, then it's difficult to say no immediately.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that makes perfect sense. So one of the it's going to be one of the last questions I'm going to ask you, but ultimately, where do you see this the sort of a couple of questions really. One, where do you see the MAT market going? So where do you ultimately, I think we both feel nearly every school is going to be it's going to be an academy and probably under a MAT. But where do you see that shape? Do you see big MATs, smaller MATs, or medium-sized MATs? And the second thing is, what would you like to see from the industry itself? What would you like to see change in the industry?
In January 19, we went past the point where 50% of children in England are educated in academy trusts. We now know there are active plans in place to reduce the number of single academy trusts, to get MAT mergers. I'm not a fan of the massive MATs because effectively the Academies Act 2010 was introduced only nearly 11 years ago to allow a school to walk away from an authority that was maybe too big, an authority who maybe didn't know the beating heart of the school, maybe didn't know what may push their children's buttons, maybe didn't know what the staff looked like despite being its employer, and maybe the authority didn't know what the parents wanted for education for their loved ones. Now, the Academy Trust world allowed then their decision makers to be the people who are closest to that. And my fear is if we only ever go for big MATs because it's let's say it's prudent or it's more efficient for the DFE, the system, then we end up with multi-academy trusts that are just local authorities under a different banner with potentially not the same public oversight, run by say 3, 5 or 7 members and possibly 7 to 12 trustees who are running small local authorities or even large local authorities. I do think that the smaller MATs will have pressure, possibly undue pressure. If they're doing something right, the education is fine, the governance is fine, the parents love what's going on, the children are safe and happy and they're developing and they're getting a really good education, the finances are all okay, the buildings are safe. I don't see any need to make a change to that school, that trust, or that single academy trust, or that MAT. Personally, I think where we're going to end up are the medium-sized MATs, who are not the large local authorities, I don't think we're going to end up with and it all would be dependent on what happens at the next general election, of course, or the election after that. You look at the average numbers of conversions going through. We still have approximately 12,000 schools, 12,000 schools to go through. We won't get there in 4 years. We possibly won't get there in 9 years. But I think every conversion that takes place is leading us down to a multi-academy trust that's, say, an average and medium one. And what I would like to see from EdTech is I would like to see them filling that gap where the strategic element is concerned, where the strategic decision makers are concerned, not just the operational. Because if a new trustee walks through the door and says, that's a great piece of kit, but I've seen a fantastic piece of kit down the road, let's get rid of that. If they'd have hit that person, if they'd have gone and spoken to that person and said why and how good this piece of this is, rather than just the school and selling to the school, I think that's where they need to be a real true partner of that trust.
Yeah, agreed. Wow. Yeah, no, I totally agree, 100%. You know, I've got some more questions, but I think they'll take us into a different direction. I was going to talk about teaching schools as well then for a second.
All right.
You know, when you sort of go, oh no, I'll have to do another one.
Absolutely fine, that Nick, anytime.
Because I think that's going to be an interesting piece as well. But a big, you know, a big thank you for your time, Jeff. I think it's been amazing hearing your thoughts on these things. And I think, you know, from a summary perspective for, you know, all the viewers out there, you know, all the people who are going to be watching this, you know, definitely think about your why, definitely become a partner, you know, start talking to the trustees, start talking at that MAT level. And so they're basically, you know, you're trying to meet their strategy and their vision. So you need to understand it well, or you make yourself vulnerable by going by school.
Yeah, spot on, Nick. I couldn't phrase that better myself. And thank you for the invite. It's always really good when we have a chat about, you know, the future of education and what should be done. So thank you for that. I appreciate that, and I hope that it just give one thought to EdTech companies or viewers out there to just change their possibly thinking if they need to. If they don't, fine, but if they do, it's just maybe will this be the small thing that they need to drive things on for not only their greater good, but for the schools and the trust's greater good as well. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for your time.
No, it's been brilliant, and thank you for your time. Next time we will talk when Liverpool are winning the league rather than Man City.
That'll be next season then.